And welcome back to the Masters of Modern and MMcast podcast. I am your host, Alex Kessler, here with my co-host, Ben Bateman.
What's going on, everybody? How you doing? It's the MMcast. We're back. We had an excellent game of Commander on Monday that inspired a truly fantastic conversation for this week's episode of the show.
So a week ago, Wizards, or not a week ago, a couple weeks ago, for time doesn't matter. Wizards announced that they will be expanding what is allowed in Magic and are going to be coming out with like licensed properties, but within the Magic mechanics and legal to be played with the Magic game as is. This is following the Walking Dead Secret Lair that we'll talk about in a second. They're doing a Lord of the Rings pack-based set, draft set, and then they're doing a Warhammer, I said 401k, what is it, 40k? Warhammer 40k, Commander product. And kind of have stated, like, our goal is to start expanding Magic into licensing other properties and bringing them in it, the way that Fortnite has and the way Smash Brothers did before that. And the way they kind of tried to do it in the 90s, though I think they learned some lessons from that. I think people are going to be worried about the lessons they learned, and we'll kind of get into that in a second. But yeah, so that happened. And then last week on our Monday Night Commander show, we had Chase from Mana Curves and Joe from I Hate Your Deck and Game Nights on to our Commander show, and we played a game where all of us played with Walking Dead commanders, and we had a blast. They were really fun, and we wanted to kind of talk about the history of the Walking Dead product and where that came from, what the decks were like, go a little bit of deck tech, what we played and what our opponents played, and what we think about all of that, plus all of the ways that people on the internet yell at you whenever the Walking Dead comes out.
People hate the Walking Dead stuff, and it's crazy because those cards are really sweet. They're really fun to play with. I mean, like, I thought they were really cool, and I thought they played together really well. I do understand the concerns associated with the Walking Dead products. Like, I get the concerns, but they seem like super minor. Like, they don't seem like hateable concerns. They just seem like, well, there's like this small caveat to these cards that makes them, a little bit abnormal, but like, play with them. They're great.
Yeah, I think, and we'll go over some of the complaints. I think that some of it was just the final straw in a year of COVID related pain, right? And just like people were already just chomping at the bit. There are multiple Magic related dramas that happened online this year that just like people got really, really, really aggressively mad. And then Wizards announces Secret Lair Walking Dead. And for those who don't know, Secret Lair product is a once in a while release thing. You can only buy it for a limited amount of time on the website, and it's normally SRP around $30. You buy it directly from Wizards. Technically, it's through another company that Wizards is working with, but you're buying it from Wizards, and they ship it to you some point in the next 6 months. It depends on the timing, and they're literally printing it by demand, right? Like, they probably start the process of printing it when they announce it so that they get all the kinks out. But as the promotion is running, they'll print on demand until they fulfill all the orders they get. And then once that limited release window ends, they ship it. And the problem with the Walking Dead product, which is different than other ones, beyond just the fact that including the Walking, like it kind of was like 8 different things all pointing at it. And we've talked about this in the past. It's a specific property. There's a bunch of people that don't like that type of content in that property. It was individual cards that were brand new. So all the cards were unique. They weren't reprints. They weren't rebrands. So it wasn't like the Godzilla cards, which is the first time they really did anything like this in a long time, where it was like other cards. Vadrock has a Godzilla variant. Baby Godzilla is whatever amphibian. So like that, you don't have an alternative. It's not a different card. It's its own card. The only card like it that exists. Limited release. And so if you wanted to play those cards, you could only get them from here. This is the only place they're available. And people hated this.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Alex. The print run on Walking Dead, which was far and away, I believe, the most popular of all of the Secret Lair products, right, has to far outpace some of the other limited release sets from the last several years. I mean, I feel like Battle Bond was pretty limited. What was the one, Jumpstart, right? It was like last year. It was
so literally. So after we did our Commander game last week, people have been coming at me in my mentions because this is the internet and that's how it works. And in response, I looked it up, and so I compared it to Commander Legends, Battle Bond, and Jumpstart. And I also looked up Conspiracy. And
Horizons too, I would think, is probably some
Modern Horizons.
Maybe.
Those are not Conspiracy. Those 4. You're right. I didn't look at Conspiracy. I did look at those. Are the 5. I looked at 5. I didn't include Conspiracy because the most expensive card in Conspiracy, the Mythic, is like $19. It's not a reprint, but the reprints are expensive. I was just trying not to include those. Jumpstart is a $110 card that came out this summer. Now that one is a little is questionable because COVID heavily reduced the print run on that. Like they will print more Jumpstart. It just because of COVID they didn't have the launch that they were expecting, so it like was a much harder to find product. But yeah, their Allosaurus trainer or whatever is like $110.
Alistair Shepherd, the one green card.
Yes, the one green mythic.
Can't be countered or something, or your creatures can't be countered. And for 6, it does something, I think.
1 green, 1/1. Allosaurus Shepherd can't be countered. Green spells you control can't be countered. 4 green until the end of turn. Each elf creature you control has basic power, toughness 5/5, and becomes a dinosaur in addition to its other types.
Yeah, totally sweet card. Not $110.
$111.99.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. That's insane. Tiny Bones is $30 from that set. In Modern Horizons, Sakashima, the Thousand Faces, is $42. Hull Breacher is $35. Jeweled Lotus is $77, and that's not with a special frame. Regular Jeweled Lotus is $77. Going back, Modern Horizons, Renin 6 is $57. Force of Negation 52. Urza's Lord High Artificer is 28. So like using market value, which the difference between the Walking Dead is they're only commander playable, but like from an interest of people who want to buy these cards at this moment in history, Modern Horizons now being 3 years old and 2 of these sets coming out within the last year. I didn't do Battle Bond. Battle Bond has what's his face? Will Kenrith is $32 and Archfiend of Despair is $33. Spellseeker was up there. It was like $23.
Though, right?
Yeah, it's gotten like a judge promo. But of those sets, they all are on average the more expensive cards are more expensive than the Walking Dead cards, right? The most expensive card is Rick at $33. And then the next one down is like $20, which is Negan, and then everyone else is like $3 in the set.
But so is the outrage about these cards the price, the availability, or is it that there's some idea that these cards that are weird and specific and hard to get represent this franchise that, like, in most people's eyes by today's standards is extremely lame? People don't like The Walking Dead. They think it's kind of dumb nowadays.
I think the later half is what has lowered its defenders.
Okay.
Right. I think the reason people are mad is because people already hate. There is a group of people that hate Secret Lairs. I love Secret Lairs. I think they're actually a net positive for Magic, but we don't have to get into that. But there's a group of people that hate Secret Lairs, hate the concept of it, right? Like selling directly, skipping LGSs, printing Magic cards and selling them directly to people. Add a layer to that there's another group of people that hates the idea of product being printed that is only available for a limited amount of time, even though every master set does that. There are currently no products made that are not print to demand that have unique cards in them, which is not totally true, but is like close to true, right? If a set is popular enough, they will do a second print run. There have been sets that had original cards in it that were not popular enough. Brawl, Conspiracy 2, and that other set that we met, Battle Bond. All 3 of those did not have sales high enough where they needed to go into a second print run. Modern Horizons did have sales high enough where they did print it additionally. So their point is that, like, there is no way for this to be popular enough for it to make more print runs. Now, mind you, this was the most popular one of these of all time, and all things point to that there are more copies of Negan or Rick or whatever than there are of any mythic from Battle Bond, right? Like that's the other side of this. And like, it's the funny thing with the conversation around the buy a box promos, right? The fact that what's the time walk?
Oh, Nexus of Fate.
Nexus of Fate. People were so mad because Nexus of Fate felt like it was rare because you couldn't get it in a pack. There are more Nexus of Fates on the market than any mythic rare from that set. Confirmed by Wizards. Like, Wizards has gone on the record saying we have printed more Nexus of Fates as a promo than any mythic rare. Not even mythic foil, mythic rare in the set.
What a weird decision that Nexus of Fate, which was a buy a box promo, is one of the most played cards in Standard. That's such a strange.
I don't think it was meant to be. I think they printed it thinking it was like fun for Commander, not that big of a deal, and then it just ended up being a constructed powerhouse.
And your favorite card to put in one of your Gauntlet decks so that I can't mill you out.
Oh, I think it's hilarious.
Remember that game on the airplane where I tried to mill you out with Grindstone and you hit Nexus of Fate? I was like, no, I can't win.
Yeah, it's great. I don't think it's good for Magic, but having it as an answer to Painter Servant Grindstone against you is wonderful.
Because if Nexus of Fate is the last card in your deck, you win the game if you can cast it, right? That's the way it works.
If I have 7 mana and Nexus of Fate is the last deck card in the game. If I can cast it, I have 7 mana, and I have a source of ways to do damage to you, I win the game.
Right.
Or it's a draw. We go to turns. It's a draw. It's a draw otherwise.
As long as you choose to cast it. You could choose to not cast it.
I could die. I could concede. Yeah. But why would I ever concede to you?
You should have done that. You should have done that.
No, but I was able to kill you. I had a goblin guide. I had like enough creatures where you couldn't block both of them, and you had like a 0/4 or something.
That was a terrible flight home.
You're the one that didn't concede. You also could concede.
I was so bitter. But yeah, I was not going to concede.
Like, based on the statement that The Walking Dead is the most, like, and not just like the most popular secret lair by a like significant margin, to the extent that they've launched a licensing department after that, and the success of the Godzilla cards earlier this year leads you to be, and then looking at what their current pricing is, right? Like they're currently costed at XYZ. Some of these are some of the cooler commanders that they printed in a while. And then on top of that, Rick is seeing legacy play, and Glenn has the potential to see legacy play. But these cards are not that expensive, right? They're within the range of tolerability of expenses. And that's where people are like complaining about cutting the LGS out. But on the other hand, the fact that these have held their price means the LGS wasn't cut out. If the LGS bought 2 cases of these, they made money. They bought them for 30, you can sell them for $100 for the full Walking Dead sealed product. So like, you get all the zombie tokens, and you get the Lucille equipment. So there's like extra stuff. There's a lot of value in there. So from their perspective, they can buy the product. They're buying and selling cards. Like that's what these sets want anyways, right? If I'm a store, sealed product does not make a card store money.
Yeah, I mean, if they like that's I wonder how many people actually listening to the podcast know that. If you buy a box for a store, like let's say a store wants to be competitive, so they're keeping it like under market, which is like what a lot of stores have to do. So you don't just buy online. And they sell you the box for like 100, let's say, or even like 96. Some stores do. They make like $10 a box, maybe like $15 a box. But I mean, a case, right? If they sell a case of Magic cards to you, they're gonna make like $90.
And packs are like nothing as well. Like if you do the math, like a Friday night draft doesn't pay for the employee running it at the store, unless if you're doing like the 36-person drafts, then you start paying for the employees, but that's it, right? Like you're not paying rent that way, and that's one night a week. So the way card stores make money is selling singles. It's reselling product. It's buying product from people at 50% of market and then reselling it to other people. And the Secret Lair stuff is great for them in that regard, right? Because they can buy it either at the time, which a lot of stores are doing, and some of them they make money on. Like for instance, any of the land ones that are worth their weight in product, and then they can resell it.
I would argue most stores probably should be ordering the Secret Lair product. I mean, unless it's one that is pretty clearly like not special, which almost none of them are. And they should probably buy 4 or 5 sets of them and sit on them for a year until they are sold out and they didn't print anymore. And now people are seeing them and want them. And then they put them in the case as singles and absolutely sell them for more than they paid.
And worst case scenario on all of them, they're great gift buys. Like if you bought, I think like Year of the Rat isn't worth more than what you paid for it. Like there's some that have depreciated value. The ones that haven't like are great prize support. Like it's great, like run a tournament where you get one of these. That's why the reasons we give them away, because they're great to give away. And some of them are worth way more. OMG Kitties is worth like 5 times as much as you paid for it. The lands one, all like the kitty one is one of the more expensive ones. The land one, all the land ones are like way expensive. Recommend buying every land Secret Lair moving forward, because you need like 8 of them to complete your land set or whatever. The Godzilla one's like super expensive. So from that perspective, like cutting out the store, I don't agree with. I don't think is correct. I think like there are other things Wizards is doing that is cutting LGSs out that I think is problematic. I don't think the Secret Lair product release is one of those things. I also think like reprints have been strong. The biggest complaint, the 2 biggest complaints that I agree with for the Walking Dead series are, the first one is international distribution, which is a hard one. I don't have a good answer for it. I don't think Wizards should not do things in specific regions that make sense. I do think they should work to figure out how to get these to be easily and more available internationally. And maybe it's coming out with like Secret Lair pack product that's only available in international regions or in general, I think would be a cool thing, but something in that world. But that's not a problem just with The Walking Dead. Just The Walking Dead was the first one that like I could not get a card in Brazil that is a Walking Dead card, period. Right?
Got it.
I can get Thalia, and I don't need the cool Thalia Secret Lair. I can get Dreadbore, I don't need the metal Dreadbore. So that sucks, and I don't have a good solution for it, but I think that there is a solution that can be found. And maybe that one is through especially on the stuff like this one, where like you just sell it through your LGS system, right? You're just like, hey, for international markets, we're going to ship you can buy cases of this for a longer time period than the print run for Secret Lair.
I also think the other thing with and I come to this point of view just from like, we build these commander decks for content every week, and I proxy them like 100%. I have decks that are lots of real cards and some proxies. I have plenty of decks I've played in my life that are full of real cards for these commander decks, because I just want to build what I want to build every week, and I do it kind of last minute. I just print a list and play it with you online, then I take it apart, or maybe I keep it together for later games. I'm comfortable with that because I've done that for years. Some people aren't for some reason. Some people aren't with casual play. They don't like the idea of playing a proxy. It just makes them feel weird. If you're talking about the 100th card in your deck, it's one problematic Secret Lair card that you think is really cool and would make your deck, and you can't find it, or you can't buy it, or it's too expensive to buy. Proxy one card in your freaking deck.
Right.
It's not the end of the world. Like, if it's sanctioned, you can't do it. But if you're just playing with your friends, don't sweat it. It's not that big of a deal. It doesn't ruin the game. It changes the gameplay aspect zero. No one even notices. Nobody looks. No one cares.
Especially in Commander. And then add the layer of like the big point is like with Rick, right? Because he's seeing legacy play. He's not seeing legacy play in a real way. Humans decks can play him. He is a playable card in that deck. Most players I've talked to that are playing it say he's not good. People are playing it because he's good enough, and it's like trolling the internet by getting around with him, and he's good enough to see play. Like, I agree with you. If you're playing Commander at this point and you need to play, if you're just like, man, I want to play the Rick deck, I want to play a mono white humans list, or I want to play Negan, which is really cool, proxy it. And then the last one is people really don't like, and this is the Walking Dead one, right? Like, there is baggage, especially with Negan specifically, with characters that have now been included in Magic that was developed by other properties that can be considered as problematic and takes people out of their good feeling vibes in Magic, which sucks. That's the other complaint. I've like kind of been like, you know what, that's legitimate. If like Negan is a triggering character for you because of the terrible things he does on the show and things that could happen in real life, because it is the violence he portrays on the show is very real world. There's not a great answer to it. The best one I found is and I actually have it, is the altar sleeves. So we like did the whole thing with them a few weeks ago. Have come out with like rebranded character versions that are like Magic characters of each of them that you can buy. So this is Negan, but it's Novak, the cold-blooded. And it's like replaces everything with every part where his name would show up, and it's this different character. And like, I think that's another way around it, right? Is you can modify these cards using stuff like altar sleeves that like doesn't damage the card and makes it look cool. And it's like $5.
I also think I have like two attitudes about the whole idea of there being a real world character on a television show that's a trigger point. Number one, I'm empathetic to it because I do understand what that means. I understand how that could make somebody feel, and especially if they can say relate to a sequence that happened in a show in a way that makes them feel upset. That being said, aside from the extremely narrow circumstance where somebody has had a personal experience to do with something actually specific that happened with a character in real life like Negan, I mean, there's tons of art on Magic cards that is every bit as violent and brutal as the things that Negan does in that show. He's a fake person in a comic book portrayed by Jeffrey Dean Morgan on a television show. It isn't real. It was never real. It's a circumstance that could make you feel that way, and I do understand it, but it's not a reason for these cards to be banned in Magic, or for us to all like hold pitchforks and say like these cards aren't allowed. I mean, a card Negan, I played against it in our game. He's a Magic card. He's a 3/4. He's just standing there. And you sacrifice creatures like you would with any other Magic card. There's nothing about the gameplay. You don't have to say something. It's I have sympathy for it, but I also have like that's a levy that these cards should be banned or not allowed or are a problem because of that. That's a really specific, I think.
Right. And I do think there's things in that world that I would make that move towards. And it's more like when people alter their cards to be pornographic, or when you know, or your playmat is like of a bunch of naked anime girls. I understand, like, yeah, that probably has no home here. I don't think this is to that extent. And it's not comparable. If the picture
on the card was the scene with Negan and Glenn, I'd be saying something completely different. That's graphic.
Right.
And if that was the case and somebody played it and you have to look at it, it would make you feel a certain way.
Even that being said, like, look at most Phyrexian cards from a graphic perspective, right? Like there's some pretty horrifying stuff that happens in Magic cards. And that's not to say that what happens in the show is necessarily fine. Like honestly, I haven't watched the show past the second season. And this isn't in defense of The Walking Dead. It's in defense of just like the reaction then to all of these things is extraordinarily out of proportion, right? Like the fact that Commander Quarters has basically burned every bridge in the Magic community that matters is unfortunate, right? Like that sucks. And it's just like the whole captain format, which was an insane creation by that person because the Commander Council refused to ban these cards outright. And it was his statement like, nope, they're now officially in the pocket of Wizards. So I'm never gonna allow them. And like the irony is that a lot of the content creators that were mad for them not banning the cards outright were calling for Wizards to take over the Commander Council like earlier that year when they weren't banning Flash or when they weren't, like it's like the amount of aggressive anger that came from them, the insulting rhetoric coming from that side. And then now the fact that like Chase after watching our stream, and we'll get into that in a second, in Deck Techs for the second part, and this might be a future video, commented at the end of the stream being like, you know what, thank you guys for giving me an opportunity to play these cards. I love this show. I love these cards. I really want to play it. But every time I bring up that I have this deck as a guest on other people's content or in general on my content, I get a flood of comments that I guarantee are on this video of people being aggressive on how anyone who would even consider the Walking Dead cards is a bad person. Like literally the quote was like, I liked this person up until the point where she said they liked the Walking Dead and now I hate her. Like that's not it's ridiculous.
So aggressive. It's also like the thing too. I mean, and I want to talk about what the episode tonight's about instead of just tangenting on this too hard, but like they're sweet and the design of them in the way that they play together is also very cool. They're really cool. The Magic cards themselves are interesting designs and they're fun and they're powerful. And I thought our game last night was one of the most fun games of Commander we've played on our channel, because of the cards being as awesome as they are. So anyway, guys, those are our quick thoughts on the Walking Dead Secret Lair. We're going to get into a conversation here in a second about some of the top franchises and properties that we want to see actually in the universe of Magic the Gathering as printed product. We both have some fun ideas we're going to run by you guys. A quick reminder to everybody watching the show right now, go to patreon.com/theMMcast. It is the reason this show continues to function after 7 years. Continue to run this thing. We would love to build the Patreon out. If there's anything that you guys want, if there's anything you guys would like to see more of, please let us know. This community and especially this show and this audience of the show means so much to us. We do really try to work hard to keep this thing open and keep the lights on. So and
if you donate $5 or more a month, you get access to basically an extra 2 hours of content every month, or almost that amount of us doing it's almost a mini movie podcast between me and Ben that we do now every week. We went over the WandaVision finale this week. Last week we talked about the future of streaming and how streaming content is going to work. Check that out. There's some that are available now open if you want to check out, see what it's like. You can see older ones that we left it. We leave the first 30 minutes of every raw feed and you get the whole episode early. Patrons are going to get to listen to all this right as soon as we're done recording as a video version and an audio version by the end of the week. And so thank you, patrons, and thank you, listeners, and definitely recommend checking that out.